What is up, savages? It's your boy Twisty. In today's video, if you haven't already guessed from the title, we're going to talk about despair runes. Now, I've been checking the Reddit for Summoners War recently, and there's a lot of confusion about despair runes in general. So, from what I've gathered from my own research and player testing, I'm going to explain to you what despair runes do. And if you look in the game, okay, and on the rune section, it will say stun rate plus 25%, right? And when you have a look at it, it will just say plus 25%. Now, let's take a monster that stuns, that everyone knows that stuns, and that is Veromos. And let's just say, for the sake of argument, that the stun rate without skill ups is 30%. Okay, so Veromos, when you stun, will stun 30% of the time. It's kind of obvious, okay? So when you equip Despair onto I haven't got Veromos on Despair, but if you were to put Despair runes on Veromos, the stun rate does not go up to 25%. No, does not go up to 55%. It doesn't. What happens is that when you do the AoE, each enemy will have the 30% chance to stun each individual enemy. Okay? And then, so that goes off. And then once that has gone off, you don't get a second attack, but it's almost like you get a second attack that does 0 damage. And what it will do is, it will do another 25% chance to stun with each attack on each enemy. So if that makes sense to you guys. So basically, I have my Lucian rune Despair, and I'm going to change him. I'm going to swap out his runes, because I only just realised this. So, for example, Lucian's Amputation Magic, okay? I want to make sure you guys fully understand what's going on with the Veromos skill, actually, first, before I talk about multi-hit skills, because that might get a bit more confusing, okay? So, just to go over this again, 30% chance to stun. We're not thinking about skill ups at the moment. So what will happen is it will attack all the enemies essentially twice, even though it's only once, okay? But it won't code it that way. But this is my way of explaining it to you. The first time, for each hit on each enemy, you'll have a 30% chance to stun. But and then the Despair runes, it will do it all over again, but another 25% chance to stun on each enemy. So it's not a 55% chance. It's a 30% chance to stun once, and then a 25% chance to stun again. You can also essentially double stun with Despair runes on monsters that already have stun skills. So, let's take a monster like easy to simplify, like Konomaya. So he stuns on the first turn with 24% chance, right? Similar to Despair rune, if we're not thinking about the skill ups, okay? So when he single targets, he will stun with 25% chance. If you put Despair on him, he'll stun with 25% chance on the first chance, and then the Despair rune will be applied, and then you have another 25% chance to stun. Okay. The reason why I was going over that for quite a bit is because it's essential for the next part. Okay. So what about monsters who have AoEs who have multiple hits? Okay, so let's go over to Lucian. So this hits 4 times, right? Or let's pick, say, Julie. Julie's skill hits 6 times. So you would think that each time you hit, there's a chance to stun. And this is actually completely false. And I found this from just playing the game myself. If you put Despair runes on monsters that have AoE skills that hit multiple times on each enemy, only the first wave of, say, your 1,000 shots or your Amputation Magic, the first wave of cards that you throw at the enemy, the first wave of attack, that only has the chance to stun. So, to go over this again, let's say Lucian. The first attack, you hit 4 times with this on all enemies. The first time you hit them is a 25% chance to stun each individual enemy. After that, the second and third and fourth waves of attack, the Despair rune effect is not applied to this. And I think they did this purposely on Despair runes to make them not overpowered on monsters like Julie, which is why I ruined Julia with Despair before, and she, for some reason, wasn't stunning at all, and that is what... I had a run with 70% accuracy. I tested out in Arena and PvE and everything, and if she wasn't stunning on the first wave of hits, she wasn't stunning at all. So I was pretty sure at that point that Despair runes only worked on the first hit, and first hit on the multiple AoE skills. And so yeah, I've done research on it, so that is what actually happens with Despair runes with regards to multiple hit AoEs. But what about a monster that attacks randomly, but has like a multiple hit skill? And the best one I can think of that does this is, let's just go to someone which we can probably go with the Fire Kung Fu Girl, okay? Let's just quickly find her. Okay, so I'll have to go to the Awakened version. Sorry about that. Okay, so she has this. They all have this skill. Attacks 4 random targets with the power of fire. Now, the way that they do Despair runes on this is very, very strange, and I got this information from Summoners War Wiki and from what other players have said. So, you saw earlier, like I mentioned, with AoE multiple hit Despair runes, only the first wave will trigger the Despair rune effect, okay? So what about this one? So if I put Despair runes on her, surely then it would only proc the Despair on the first hit, and it's actually not true, because obviously they did this to make these monsters viable with Despair runes a bit more. So the only way to proc Despair runes on the second, third, and fourth hit is to stun an enemy, or proc the Despair stun. They can have immunity, and it will still proc on the others. But if you proc a Despair stun on the first hit of this attack, then you have a chance to proc on the second, third, and fourth attacks as well. Just to see if I can go to screenshots, just to double check that, because I got this from Summoners War Wiki, and I trusted it to be correct. So at the time of making this video, that's what it was about. Okay, look at this. So if you look at point 4, basically you have to activate the first hit. Okay, yeah. I mean that makes kind of sense. You can sort of read that. I'll just read it to you. Multi-hit skills which randomly attack different enemies have a chance of activating Despair stuns on subsequent hits, that's the second, third, and fourth, and whatever hits, if the first hit on that monster activates Despair. So, going back to the game, go back to Honghua. So, if she stuns, she doesn't have to stun, she just needs to activate the Despair stun on the first hit. Then on the subsequent hits, the spell will also be activated. Okay, so hope that makes more sense Despair stun wise. Okay, now we're going to go into something slightly more complicated, and that is accuracy. There's a lot of debate with Despair runes. Oh, Despair runes, I need accuracy. I need accuracy on my Despair runes to get so they have no resistance on the Despair runes. Okay, this is actually completely false. You cannot resist a Despair stun, and a lot of players are probably going to disagree and say, oh, I've got evidence of this, but from what people have done, and what people have tested, and general consensus of the game, you cannot resist a Despair stun. I think the reason why people think you can resist Despair stuns is because of Veramos. Veramos's stun skill is not a Despair rune stun, it's Veramos's own stun in itself. So you can get this the skill resisted for sure, and obviously there's chances that the stuns don't proc at all. But like with Veramos's skill, you can resist a stun from a monster if it's the actual skill. Now, as I said before at the start of the video, if you were to put Despair on Veramos, right? So when you stun with Veramos, the 30% chance without skill ups, like you proc straight away, that can be resisted, okay? So you can do the accuracy in this instance if you were to use Veramos to stun. But the Despair runes, if they proc with their 25% chance afterwards, they cannot be resisted. And the only way to resist a Despair stun is with immunity. Obviously, immunity you would resist a Despair stun. It's kind of obvious, but just to clarify things, the only way to resist a Despair stun is with immunity. So now we've talked about all of this, what are the best monsters to put Despair on? And it's entirely debatable. But in my opinion, let's just. I need to find a monster with 2 AoEs. I probably do not have. Yeah. Okay. Let's just go with Van. Right. Okay. So she basically pretty much all the monsters in the game, apart from the Water Magic Knight and a few others, will not AoE on the first skill. Okay. So with her, she has 2 AoEs, right? And these don't attack multiple times, so you're not losing any attack power by not putting Rage Runes. So monsters like her and Saf, I'm trying to think, the Fire Inferno can be good for this as well. I think it's Tagaros is how you pronounce his name. You can put Despair Runes on those. You're not sacrificing damage because this is assuming you're going for stuns, okay? So they're good monsters to put Despair Runes on. Lucian is a bad example to put Despair Runes on. I mean, he has 2 AoEs, but Lucian is a raw damage dealer. You kind of want him to have good damage. I mean, it's debatable if you want to put Despair Runes on him, but I've done it, not worth it. I'm changing the runes as soon as I can. Okay, so who else? No one probably has him, but monsters which revenge attack on the first skill, of course, when other ally monsters are attacked. So the Wind Monkey King is a good example, and also this guy, because he will counter attack when the ally is attacked by a critical hit. Okay, so basically, if you put Despair on him, every time an ally is attacked, he will revenge and he can stun as well. Okay, also worth mentioning, with Despair Runes do work on revenge. They are, I mean, Vampire Runes, I believe, do not work on revenge, and there are some others like that, but don't quote me on the Vampire Runes. But in terms of this video, Despair Runes wise, Despair Runes do work on revenge, and that is why you see some of the monsters like Lapis is a good example. The Magic Knights are actually generally a good example that are put on Despair Revenge, because if they get a Revenge proc, they can also proc Despair as well, and that is one good thing to note. I don't think there's anything else I need to clarify about Despair Runes at the moment. I mean, it's kind of a long video, but I had to really get in depth just to show you guys what Despair Runes do. And if anyone has any questions, just comment below. I'll probably answer within 24 hours. Give me the amount of time so I can do other things. But yeah, I need to make this video because I feel like people don't really fully understand what Despair Runes do. And when I was a new player in the game, I didn't really understand what Despair Runes do, and I still didn't understand until I did research into it. Because people were talking about this thinking, does it not make my Veromos 100% stun rate? No, it doesn't. That's not how it works. So, I hope you guys enjoyed the video. If you've got any questions, post them below. If you've got any evidence to say anything else against what I've said, then post it below. Kind of gone a bit crazy because there was just so much information I had to overload to you guys. But I hope you all took it in, and I'll see you in the next video. Peace.